What fact is ignored generously? Experience is not equal to competence. Just because a movie or a book is good doesn't mean you like it. That's a good way to put it. You can appreciate that something is well written, good, engaging its target audience, etc., without actually liking the work yourself. That we all have confirmation bias. In my studies I found that I do not. Oh wait. I controlled for my confirmation bias. Turns out I have the smallest confirmation bias. No one has a smaller confirmation bias than I do, in the entire academia, and people come up to me and tell me I am the most objective researcher and I write papers with the most logical conclusions and most rigorous models. No bias, they have the bias. But I have no bias. My bias level is tremendously non-existent. Prevention is more affordable than treatment. Humans overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what we can achieve in a year. Being at a job for a long time does not mean someone is good at their job. A coworker of mine used to say, there is 10 years of experience and then there is 1 year of experience repeated 10 times. I like that saying. A lot of people like to mention the 10,000 hours thing, but fail to mention that you have to be actively trying to learn and better yourself for the majority of those 10,000 hours. Just because it's legally allowed doesn't mean you're not a douchebag for doing it. Example, free speech isn't freedom from consequence. You legally can say whatever you want doesn't mean people won't call you a for it. Mob mentality doesn't mean you are right. The number of people who die after a war, the consequences of war, are not counted in the statistics. Some people who died between the 9th and the 11th of November 1918 were not counted as dead these days, because that would be quite awful for a family to learn that your husband, brother, son, father died the last day before the war stopped. You think that's bad? In the War of 1812, there was an entire battle in New Orleans a couple weeks after the Treaty of Ghent was signed, because word hadn't gotten back to the US yet that the war was over. Over 2,000 people died. Oops. Human memory is extremely unreliable. We forget important details. We fabricate memories and convince ourselves that they're true. What we do remember is distorted to conform to our biases. When I was 5, my parents surprised my older sister and I with a trip to Disneyland really early in the morning before our flight. For years I had this memory of it happening and being so excited. They videotaped the whole thing, but we had lost the video for years. When we found it, I saw that I was actually asleep the whole time. I had completely made up the memory based on my sister and parents talking about it. Yeah, this is especially crazy to me. You can fabricate memories off of talking and thinking about it. Sometimes when you think about things like that long enough, you can forget they aren't real. That just because someone tells you something is a fact doesn't mean that it is. I'll take your word for it. But how else am I going to write my essay on the surge of disinformation? Facts aren't opinions. I wish I could upvote this 1,000,000 times. I'm getting really sick and tired of people who argue 2 points, where one is arguing from evidence-based facts, the other is arguing from a YouTube conspiracy video, and the second tries to take the high road with, you have your opinion, I have mine. No, you window licker. Person A has facts, you have idiocy. You are not immune to propaganda. Fun word fact: the term propaganda originally referred to a Catholic Church committee for propagating the faith during the Counter-Reformation. This comment was brought to you by bigotomology. Actually, propaganda comes from when a British person gets a good look at something. Just because some people are naturally talented doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard. Hard work can beat talent when talent doesn't work hard, as my undergrad advisor was fond of saying. But when talent works hard, it's game over. The importance of getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. To add to this, 7 to 9 hours of sleep is not the same as a 7 to 9 hour sleep opportunity window. If you're giving yourself a 7-hour sleep opportunity window, you are not getting 7 hours of sleep. Probably more like 6. Valid point. Everyone is a huge hypocrite when it suits them, including me. The irony of this statement is that if you're ever in a situation where being a hypocrite would suit you but you aren't a hypocrite, then you are a hypocrite because you said you would be but weren't. My brain hurts. Admitting to a mistake is not a sign of weakness. Bending over backwards to cover it up and pretending like it never happened is. It's in your best interest too. If you don't own your mistakes, others will and may use them against you. Be careful which moon. Turns out bragging about you restraining orders doesn't get you a second date. Giving birth to a kid doesn't make you an expert on raising them. Nor do they owe you for being born. A lot of people need to realize this. Way too many need to. France didn't stop executing people by guillotine until 1977. And slavery wasn't legally considered a crime against humanity until 2001. Older doesn't always mean wiser. Wisdom is obtained from what you do with your time. It's not about how much time you've had. Just remember, stupid people get old too. Depends on the agenda of the people doing the ignoring. People only care about the facts that agree with them. Edit. Thanks for the gift, kind stranger. You have blinkers for your car so that you can tell other drivers that you're changing lanes. Fun fact, it's the law. And you need to put them on before you start to move lanes. Exactly. The purpose of a turn signal is to alert those around you what you are going to do so they can be prepared, not what you are actively doing. One of my biggest peeves. Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. George Carlin. Great minds think alike but fools rarely differ. The government is trying to pass an anti-encryption bill that could strip away any and all privacy given to U.S. citizens. Depending on enforcement, it'd also annihilate the economy of literally any country it was passed in, and completely cut it off from all international banking. Animals are much more brutal than people realize. We only see the cute cuddly side on the internet. Cheetah makes friends with a goat, gets more views than warthog gets eaten alive by lions, and lasts a surprisingly long time while it's happening. Animals will eat you alive if they don't think you're a threat to injury. It's out of survival. Something bigger and badder might come along and they won't have eaten anything. No, the leopard didn't kill the animal before eating it out of compassion. It just didn't want to take a hoof to the head while it was having lunch. I watched 3 lionesses hunt a warthog and its piglet up close once. 2 of the lionesses made themselves seen while the third slid behind a small mound and snuck through the grass. The warthog stayed focused on the 2 lions in the open. The hunter got within a few feet and crouched low, ready to strike. Something alerted the warthogs and they took off like a rocket. The lioness, being the queen of the savannah, rolled on her side and started licking her paw. Hugely disappointing. Edit. I did get one of my favorite pictures during this experience. https://imager.com 8pjp5x4. Almost clever girl. Nearly every hand you shake has held a. Being rich doesn't mean you're great with money or someone who should be trusted with business decisions. Or smart. People love to assume that you should really get off your phone and go to sleep. Edit. Lol guys, I meant at night. But it's 4 p.m. and I have been sleeping until noon every day. Quitting is often a good decision. Most people over 20 already met a murderer at least once in their lifetime. I dated a murderer before I was even 20. Before he became a murderer, of course. Whoa. He didn't murder you, did he? Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I hate you. And conversely, just because I agree with you doesn't mean I like you. Both of these points are excellent. People spend the majority of their life chasing money without understanding how it works. Being well known doesn't always make you popular, as you may be well known for pissing yourself in class. This really depends on how you define popular. Frequently encountered is one of the definitions of popular. An amp, #X200B, an amp, #X200B. Also, don't judge me for pissing in class. You can have lots of people know you, but not really know you. Like, your classmates could know you as the kid who pissed himself in class but not care that you can make a really good burrito, or something. That squared is not equal to. As a geometry teacher, I feel this. Me, you need to multiply it out. Remember FOIL. Student. Me, from last year. Student. Me, like this. Student. I have to do that every time. Me, yes. Forever and always. The rules of math have not changed since last year. Orcas and dolphins aren't happy in those aquatic parks. Baffled that this isn't intuitive or obvious to most people. The majestic and spacious ocean, or a tiny tank surrounded by farty, loud creatures. It has been said that one of nature's cruelest jokes was to give the dolphin a permanent smile. Most people are not very smart. And even the smart ones are dumb sometimes. And dumb ones can get dumber. Every single year, cruise ships dump 14 billion pounds of garbage into the oceans. Bill Burr's idea of sinking these sounds better and better. Concentration camps in China are still going on. Sums it all up very concisely. Oh, and they're supplanting the now imprisoned for thought crimes Uyghur husbands, fathers with single, ethnically Han Chinese men in their own households. They are literally relocating the majority at the city to replace and wash out the minority culture and people. You don't have to be wrong for someone else to be right. Alcohol is poison. You aren't supposed to stick Q-tips in your ears. You can't stop me. He wasn't telling you to stop, he just gave you a Q-tip. If someone is smiling, that does not mean they're happy. The average person eats 3 spiders a year. Factoid is just a statistical error. The average person eats 0 spiders per year. However, Spiders Georg, who lives in cave and eats over 10,000 each day, is an outlier and should not have been counted. The average human being has 1 in 1 ovary. That colds and flu are caused by viruses, not by being cold or wet. Yes, though being cold and wet for a long time will suppress your immune system, making you more vulnerable to viruses. If you edit your comment to add "Thanks for the gold, kind stranger," the kind stranger will probably never see that edit, but everybody else will, and will be annoyed. However, if you reply to the notification DM about the award, the kind stranger will see it for sure, and you would not bother anybody else. TikTok is literally Chinese spyware. I tell people this and they laugh. I tell my friends this and they call me racist. Just because someone has served in the armed forces doesn't mean they deserve respect or are a good person.